Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to the car. So, today I'd like to talk a bit about open source and my own personal background as a closed source user because my first experience with computers was using my parents' work computers. They both got access to computers when I was quite young, and they allowed me to use them sometimes when they didn't need them and nobody was looking. And they had Microsoft DOS on them. And then later we got Windows 3, and then my dad got Windows 95, and then my mom got NT4. And then eventually I got my own computer, and I stopped using theirs so much. But anyway, uh, I grew up completely in a Microsoft environment, right? And as a young boy interested in programming, um, the the reality of that environment was that um, there were three kinds of software. Really, there was like paid software, like Microsoft Office or whatever, like it's big corporate software, and then there was shareware, which was more like indie software that you could try for a couple of days, and then you were supposed to register and pay a little fee, and then you would get a copy of the program that didn't nag you on startup or whatever. And then there was freeware also. And um, the main way that I would get software back then was from computer magazines, because in Sweden we had these computer magazines that would come with a floppy disk with some shareware on it and freeware. And later on, we got a modem so I could dial into places and download stuff. Um, but the thing was that there was never any source code for anything. So, as a young guy interested in programming, I was always seeing these different programs, but I never understood how they worked. I just understood that they did work, and then I had to sort of figure out for myself, like, okay, well, how can I write code that would do this thing? And that was there was a disconnect there. That was really weird and hard to grasp for me at the time. Um, and I remember reading about Linux in magazines back then, and I just couldn't understand what it was about. Like, it didn't click for me what it meant that something would be open source because it was so weird and foreign that I just couldn't comprehend it. And it wasn't until like my late teens that I actually tried it for real for the first time and um, gave it like a fair shake. And I remember installing Linux on my mom's computer, and I put this dual boot menu on it so that my mom could get into Windows and I could get into Slackware. And my mom was not excited about that, but um, somehow it was allowed. I think maybe maybe it's not that it was allowed; it's just that I did it and then told her what I had done, and then by then it was too late. Sorry, mom. But anyway, uh, it was. I still remember this feeling of potential that I felt. That there was this power and potential to the system, even though it was not very featureful and it was not very capable. Like that computer, it had a sound card that didn't work. It had a modem that couldn't dial. It was had a real hassle to get the screen resolution working right and everything. But um, the real power and potential for me was here was me. Here I was sitting with like this foreign computer environment that I didn't really understand, but all the code that made it up was right here. I could just look at it and dig through it, and if I changed a string and rebuilt something, it would come up on screen differently. And to me, that was like completely mind blowing because I had grown up um, trying to imitate software. Like as a kid, I spent all this time in like Visual Basic trying to imitate Microsoft Office, trying to recreate like different UI elements from Microsoft Office and stuff. Um, and I learned through imitation a lot of stuff. And to be able to actually look at the code for something, it was like, wow, very, very cool, I thought. And um, I still think that's so cool. I'm still so amazed by this ability that we get to just look at the code for stuff. And if you're using Linux today or a BSD system, um, or like an open source desktop, right, of whatever brand, um, then you have all the code for what you're running right now available to you, and you can mess with it. And I just love that. That's so cool. And I almost feel like it's a little bit sad for people who got into programming after open source became so widespread that that they don't get to experience this culture shock of going from a closed source world into the open source world, and like suddenly having access to all this stuff. Um, but at the same time, of course, I'm really happy that people coming up now, um, they don't need to go through this code starvation that I grew up with, where you love programming and you're so curious about it, and nobody shows you the code. So obviously, I'm super happy that open source has made it this big. Um, it's super awesome. But I wish I could share this feeling of amazement that I have about um, all the code. So I guess that's something I'm trying to do with this channel. When I share my programming videos and everything, like that is really my way of inviting people to see that everything that makes up a computer system, you can see it, you can mess with it, you can even build it yourself. Like here's me doing that, right? Um, that's something that does motivate me to try and share this feeling. And um, at work, we had this intern who we hired a while ago, so he's not an intern anymore, he's an employee. And when he came to us a little over a year ago, I think, he didn't have a lot of experience with Linux and open source environments, and I've been trying to teach him as much as I can, as fast as I can. And the other day, I sat with him, and we were modding his window manager to tweak window title alignments. And I was so happy to see a young person um, discover this world, like that I could be part of, like showing him that, look, you have the source code, you can do whatever you want with it. And it really is an amazing thing. And I think if you are using an open source environment and you've never messed with it, like really like just picked something and ripped it apart and see how it works inside, um, then I think you really ought to do that, because it's just so much fun, but also it's super educational, and um, it's it's really good, I think, to realize the potential for the potential in this system, in this culture that we have here. Don't just take it for granted, actually take advantage of the fact that everything is open source, and pick it apart and see how it works. Um, yeah. I I think it's just so cool. And um, some of the first stuff I ever did um, to start messing with open source, I think it was also window manager related. Like I wanted to have a different looking um, window manager theme for KDE way back when. So I just like took the code for some KWin decorator, whatever it was called, and I just copied an existing one, and then I just started tweaking the numbers in the C++ code one by one, and recompiling and installing it and seeing what would happen. Um, that was one of the most exciting experiences of my life, as nerdy as it sounds. It really was, and I think we should all seek experiences like that, right? Anyway, I don't really know how to get this point across any better than this. So I just want to say that I think that open source is amazing, and I really wish for everybody who uses open source software to take advantage of it and pick some program that you use and learn how to compile it for yourself and go in the source code and mess with it a little bit and see what you can discover and what you can change, because it is it is mind blowing to I think. Anyway, that's something I wanted to talk about today because I do feel very passionately about this. So thank you for listening to me, um, and thanks for hanging out with me in the car. I'll see you next time. Bye.